Molweni, good afternoon. My name is Luvuyo Madasa, and thank you for joining us today for the convening of Sibanye-Stillwater's second annual Marikana Memorial Lecture. Today is a continuation of a program initiated in 2020 by Sibanye-Stillwater to honor, engage, and create beyond policy and business as usual. This means that we take platforms like today to acknowledge the tragedy that sent shockwaves through our country in 2012 and begin the hard work of intentionally working together as a collective to prevent it from ever happening again. So today we continue to honor the lives and legacies of the Marikana 44 and their families who have joined us virtually from Moinoi, Eastern Cape, and Lesotho. Molweni. We continue to engage people, leaders, and stakeholders at various levels in the interest of initiating renewal that goes beyond mining. And most importantly, we work together to create a reimagined future for all willing participants. A bit of housekeeping. Due to varying degrees of connectivity, bandwidth, and network coverage, today's program will consist of recorded contributions from our speakers, followed by a live Q&A session for the appropriate leaders to address questions and comments. And for our first contribution today, we open today's proceedings, and I invite the technical team to cue the recorded message from His Grace, the Archbishop Thabo Makgoba, patron of the Marikana Renewal Program. And we're just cueing the video. If you can bear with us just a minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Archbishop Thabo Makgoba. I am addressing you on, indeed, this sad milestone in the history of our country. But I just want to say to the families of those that died in Marikana 9 years ago, we are praying for the repose of their souls. We are sending our condolences. We pray that they will rest in peace and rise in glory. We will hold a mirror to ourselves as we reflect on them. We will continue to be courageous and show our outrage on what has happened so that this does not happen again. We will seek or continue to seek practical steps like we do at the Marikana Renewal project to close that gap. And we will orchestrate for policies that respect particularly the workers. As I say, Marikana was a day that changed South Africa. It lifted a mirror to the country, to a country that allowed this to happen, to reflect on itself. And I'm glad you've asked Dr. Rampila Mampila, my parishioner, who is courageous and bold, to be the keynote speaker on this day. Last year, I opened by saying, I speak to you during a difficult time in South Africa. Well, today I speak to you during an even more difficult time. We will continue to find struggle wherever we look, and it can be difficult to find moments of hope. The 16th August 2012 was a day that changed South Africa, and dare I say the world and Africa. The events that took place at the Kopi at Marikana lifted a mirror to the country. It asked who we were as a country that allowed ourselves to get to that point, to allow that to happen. Were we so unable to speak to each other, to find common cause, that this was the only outcome? Let us not mince our words. The fault lay everywhere. The blood of our fallen colleagues, sacrificed in a battle of ideology, is a terrible legacy of Marikana. It is a legacy that as a country we have forgotten and which we have not built from. We have allowed our country to continue to create a kindling of our people, the poorest and most vulnerable, lying everywhere we look, ready to spark. That is why days and commemoration like today are so important, so critical, to remind ourselves of what happens when we don't come together, when we don't reflect honestly on ourselves and build together, and when we don't create moments of hope. In Cape Town, in 1966, Robert Kennedy gave his famous affirmation address. I want to focus on one part of it. And I quote, "It is from numberless diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped each time a man or a woman stands for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice. He sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest wall of oppression and resistance." That is the key phrase I want you to think about. Ripple of hope. Let us today commit once more and continuously to create numberless ripples of hope we need to build South Africa we want to see. A South Africa where all people live with dignity, in peace, and are able to flourish. A South Africa where our differences are spoken about, where we address our challenges together, building side by side rather than facing each other in conflict. A South Africa where our collective spirit and focus allows each person to travel their own path, but towards a common good. The time now for us is to look across from where we sit at our neighbor, at our friend, and at our enemy, to reach out and begin to heal together, to begin the slow and sometimes difficult process of finding closure, to recognize each other's pain, and help each other to solve the pain. I would like to use this moment to ask you to reach across the chasms that separate us, to begin to create ripples of hope for a South Africa for all people. Find partners, find them near and far, find them who agree with, and importantly, those who disagree with. I'm calling on all parties to genuinely want to be part of the healing and building of South Africa. The time has come to build a future for all of us that is tangible, that is for the common good, a collective future where not one single person suffers in the way that has led to these tragedies. We can remember the past, but now we have to build the future. Let us be active in our diverse courage. Let us stand up for our ideals. Let us create ripples of hope. Let us turn the kindling of our people into mighty trees that can be. I thank you. And once again, God bless you, and may the souls of the faithful departed through the mercy of God who died in Marikana rest in peace, and rise in glory.
Thank you, Archbishop Makgoba, for your message of reflection that challenges us to continue engaging in dialogue, to find meaningful ways to heal one another in ways that ensure that our policies continue to respect the lives and contributions of workers who come together not only to create value, but to create ripples of hope together as partners in renewal. Thank you to everyone who continues to join today's commemoration. A reminder to please send your comments in the comments box, and our team will continue to collect them and organize them appropriately as we prepare for the Q&A session later in the program. And for our second contribution, and to speak to us next, I invite the team to cue a message from Mr. Jerry Vilagazi, who is an independent non-executive director on the Sibanye-Stillwater board.
I think in the last few days, like many South Africans, we've been following in the media the stories of many people around Marikana through the media telling their experiences of what has come to be known as the Marikana tragedy or the Marikana massacre. I think the story of Marikana for us as a company, as Sibanye, is a story of pain. It is a story that is a reflection of some of the challenges that remain in our country. When we took a decision to invest in Marikana and buy Lonmin, we were very much alive to the challenges that are faced by the community in that area. We looked at the commercial deal as the directors of the company, and from the Social and Ethics Committee, we were alive to the realities that we're inheriting with the Marikana tragedy of 9 years ago. As everybody commemorates, reflect on the journey, listening to women who lost their husbands, listening to mothers who lost their sons, listening to those that lost their brothers. It is a story that you hear in many communities in South Africa. We took a decision that while this is a painful area to invest in, it was an opportunity for us in terms of our own values and desire to change the way mining is being looked into in this country. We were alive to the fact that the triple challenges of Marikana are not just unique to Marikana, but they're a reality in many communities in our country, except that the implosion, unfortunately, of 9 years ago brought to the fore what the issues that many communities still have to struggle with. So we decided that we have values that we subscribe to, that we are implementing, that are driving us all over the world where we invest as a company. And we took a decision that we will take this challenge head on. We will play our role as a responsible company to work with other partners, with government, with unions, with communities, and also with traditional leadership in that area to bring about change. That is why when you hear the stories that are being told by some of the people, the widows, they talk of beginning to see some movements and seeing houses and others being given opportunities to start small businesses. And we will continue working with other stakeholders to bring about change in that community. We cannot do it alone as a company, but with other stakeholders together, we can bring change, we can improve the lives of our people in that area. We are not driven by purely the life of mine. We realize there is a community that needs to live a better life even when the mine has closed down. That is why a lot of the initiatives we're undertaking there are looking beyond the life of the mine. We call upon government and all other stakeholders as directors of the company and as the company to work with us in finding long-lasting solutions to the pains of Marikana, to the story of Marikana. It can be changed. We believe it can be changed, and we're committed as a company to play our part in doing so. We're beginning to see a cup, a glass that we can say it is half full. And we want to encourage everybody involved to work with us in solving these problems.
Siyabonga Bavilakazi. Yours is an important invitation for all stakeholders to walk with Sibanye-Stillwater and the people and community of Marikana to reach beyond business and mining as usual. Join hands with other willing participants and build intentionally beyond the life of mine. You mentioned a video about the contributions that have currently been made. To all the listeners, this will be flighted after the Q&A session and will also be made available on the Sibanye-Stillwater website. And for our third contribution today, and to deliver our keynote address, I invite the technical team to cue Dr. Mamphela Ramphele's message for today's commemoration.
I'm Mamphela Ramphele, the co-founder of Remembrance South Africa. Ndingumamkwe, intombi yaseLimpopo. We are here today to celebrate the lives of those who were caught up in the tragic events of 9 years ago. Those were courageous people who challenged what they saw as unfair practices to exclude them from the value they had created. We also pay tribute to those who lost loved ones and fellow colleagues on that day. We thank them for going beyond the pain of loss to dedicate themselves to being part of the transformation to make us whole as a people. We thank Sibanye-Stillwater for their own courage and dedication and commitment to going beyond the technical solutions they've tried over the years to coming back to the wisdom of Africa, Ubuntu, as the tool that can be used as the balm to heal the wounds of the past. African culture teaches us that when things go wrong, we sit together to find a way by asking those who have gone before us, our ancestors, how do we repair what is broken? It is that wisdom that Reimagine SA brings to this transformative work. We live in a world where artificial intelligence has taken the world by storm. People want to be seen to be part of the fourth industrial revolution. The amazing thing and very gratifying is that some scientists have come to realize that there is a higher intelligence, nature's intelligence. And that nature's intelligence is the product of millions of years of Mother Nature finding ways of building and regenerating as well as sustaining life in ways that we as human beings have not yet found. African culture emerged from this continent, which is not just the cradle of humanity, but also the cradle of human civilization. That civilization had Ubuntu at its core. Because of that focus of the person, the I am because you are, the focus on not just the me, but the we, because I cannot be without you being there, ensures that relationships are built in a sustainable way that includes everybody. So we, in the context of this very important work we have to do, have two pillars of strength to lean on. One is the Ubuntu value system. The second pillar is the Lezema circles of healing. Ubuntu value system helps us to understand how best to think about sustainable socio-economic development that is inclusive and that is in harmony with nature. The mining industry, by its very nature, is extractive. It takes away from nature without the compulsion to regenerate. By adopting an Ubuntu value system, Sibanye-Stillwater is committing itself to a mining industrial process that treats nature's heritage and wealth that is at its disposal as a sacred gift. To honor that gift, the approach to the entire operational process has to be anchored on the core of Ubuntu, where everyone contributes in a sustainable way to the shared value that is generated, but also where nature is not violated, where when things go wrong, they are repaired in a way that ensure sustainability. it is also important to look at the lessons that are emerging from this approach. The first important lesson is that we cannot have a working environment where people's dignity is not respected. Ubuntu values bring to the fore the respect for everyone and builds trust in the working relationships. But we also, through this process, acknowledge that the woundedness of all who are involved in this process didn't start only in Marikana on that fateful day. We bring to the work we are doing the woundedness of colonial conquest, the woundedness of the apartheid system that color-coded us to the extent that we no longer see the humanity of others, but the colors of their skin. We also have to acknowledge that the failures of our post-1994 governments have added salt to those wounds. Many people still feel disrespected and they lack the basics. Ubuntu as a way of life, a philosophy that guides every socio-economic process, would go a long way to helping us to not only heal, but to prevent and protect us from inflicting wounds on others and inflicting wounds on ourselves. Which is why Ubuntu alone would not be sufficient for the transformation work at hand. We need to draw on the second pillar, the Letsema circles of healing. These are circles of healing that our ancestors have bequeathed us. Reimagine SA has resuscitated this technology of people sitting together in a circle, making eye-to-eye contact, bringing the whole of themselves into the circle. The beauty of the circle is that everyone sits at the same level. There is no higher or lower person, regardless of age, of gender, of standing in life, or class. Even the leaders, they lead at the same level where the rest of us sit. This enables those within the circle to feel connected to others, to feel affirmed by others. And we know from the wisdom of our ancestors that people perform the best when they feel that they belong. The circle is a tool for enhancing that belonging. Our ancestors also used this circle for governance purposes, so that everyone can participate on an equal footing in decision making, in addressing problems that are there, but also in bringing new ideas to the collective. So what happens within circles? Circles enable us to co-create whatever we want to do, whatever plan we want to make. It becomes the product of co-creation. We also, in a circle, are able to generate agendas about what is it that we want to talk about. All of that are co-generated agendas. We also, within a circle, inspire one another. Co-inspiration, just simply sitting in a space where there is mutual understanding, trust, enables people to bring out the best in themselves. Within circles, there is also openness and honesty, because circles are safe spaces where everyone matters, where people do not laugh at an idea simply because they don't agree with it. Respect is what characterizes circles of healing. It is within those circles of healing that people find their voices and are able to contribute to the solutions that they will take co-ownership of. The beauty of circles is also that there are no free riders within circles. Everyone takes responsibility and everyone is expected to contribute. So, what have we learned from the journey we have been on over the last few months? We have learned that Ubuntu, values, and circles of healing work. But we are only at the beginning. We are in the process of bringing in as many voices as possible into this circle. We have seen the positive results, but the task at hand is a mammoth task. We also have learned that transformation is a long-term process. So where are we now? The collaborative work we are doing together with all the social partners, including Sibanye-Stillwater, is enriching all of us. We are learning important lessons about how each of us works, what makes our partners tick, and how best to work with them. We are also learning how together we can work more effectively and efficiently with the limited resources we have. We are learning that transformation is a long-term process that requires renewal of our inspiration and of our passion. In addition, we are learning about our own limitations as individuals and as a collective. By working together, we are becoming more able to complement one another and make the whole larger than the sum of the parts. What has been achieved so far has laid a strong foundation for the future we can co-create and reimagine together, so we can be proud to shape a future we can bequeath to successive generations of South Africans to build the South Africa that so many died fighting for. A South Africa that is home for everyone, a South Africa where every person feels at home. I thank you, Diabulela.
Riyaleboga Mamkwena, siyabulela ntombi yaseLimpopo, for inviting all today's participants to not merely criticize government and company, but to hold up mirrors to ourselves and ask ourselves, have we listened long enough to understand how to come together, merge ancient practices of the Letsema process into a holistic renewal program that is intended to set a foundation that inspires us to come together, reimagine a future that is inclusive in the value sharing of all those involved in creating it, for the ongoing benefit of people, communities, and our shared environments. Our fourth contribution today is an address from Minister Gwede Mantashe of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. And I'd like to invite our technical team to then cue this video sharing.
Program Director, Archbishop Tabo Makgoba, Patron of Marikana, Renewal, Dr. Mampele Rampele, family of Marikana victims, Jerry Villakas, Chairperson of Social and Ethics Committee, members of Sibanye-Stillwater Board, Neil Froneman, CEO, fellow mine workers. We convene under extraordinary circumstances to honor those who perished on the tragic day of 16 August 2012. It is worth of note and regrettable that government officially participate in the commemoration of this tragic event for the first time after 9 years. Were however humbled by this gesture. To us, commemorative occasion is double-edged sword. Firstly, it reminds us of an unfortunate and regrettable event in our past which must never repeat itself. And second, it implores us to strive for higher ideals amplified by the text and spirit of our transformative constitution. This occasion puts into sharp relief the societal expectation regarding the exploitation of mineral resources. The tectonic shift in paradigm emphasizes the notion that mining policies should go beyond the frontiers of legal compliance to meet societal expectation. It is in this context that the changes in the governance of natural resources have expanded the range of stakeholders in the management of natural resources. The result of this shift has been the establishment of a social partnership between the state, the private sector, and the civil society. It is now common to see embodiment of the elements of social license being part of the law, thus amplifying the voices of the affected communities in the mineral governance. The mining charter, in addressing the misfortunes of our past mineral governance, wherein the involvement of communities and workers was not well articulated, the 2018 mining charter recognizes this truism by ensuring that communities and workers do not only participate in the exploitation of mineral resources as purveyors of cheap labor, but also equity owners. Towards this end, the current mining charter implores mining companies to give at least 5% free carried interest to communities. It also implores on them to give at least 5% free carried interest to workers. In this way, mine workers can benefit from the exploitation of mineral resources beyond wages. The charter has further ensured that this benefit is not subjected to any reduction by the mining right holder through the issuing of new shares. The 5% equivalent of issued shares capital for the benefit of host communities shall be administered at no cost by a trust or similar vehicle. What is important to note here is that the trust must comprise of representation of host community members, including community-based organizations and traditional leaders. However, the charter will only have effect if it is implemented by the mining company, monitored by the department. In this regard, the department has identified compliance monitoring as one of the priority areas that need to be strengthened. Together with other social justice-oriented policies that are embedded in the MPRDA, like the social labor plans, communities are poised to meaningful benefit from the exploitation of natural resources, which are national patrimony and heritage of all South Africans. As the department would like to enjoy mining companies to give effect to the socio-economic and social justice-oriented tenets of our policy. It is only in the context of harmonious coexistence between communities, workers, and mining companies that mineral resources can be optimally and orderly exploited with the stable. This is the social capital in which all relevant stakeholders must invest. Thus, it is for this reason that the department will henceforth rigorously monitor the implementation of this policy. The charter requires that right holders contribute meaningfully towards mining community development. Mining rights holders thus must, in consultation with relevant municipalities, mining communities, traditional authorities, affected stakeholders, identify developmental priorities of mine communities. These projects must therefore be aligned to the IDPs and be identified in the social and labor plan. We need to have new approach to social and labor plans. The charter makes provision for collaboration of mining rights holders operating in same area to identify projects and maximize socio-economic developmental impact in line with approved social and labor plan. The charter further requires 100% implementation of the social labor plan projects within any given financial year. This will result in impactful projects that will make a difference in communities. However, these social labor plans should not replace municipal integrated development programs, but must complement them. Furthermore, the introduction of the district development model will enhance collaboration among the stakeholders and across sectors to effectively address the socio-economic challenges faced by communities. Mining communities like Marikana can best benefit from this approach. The department has from time to time entered into various contractual agreements with mining companies. These agreements are meant to give practical effect to the socio-economic objective of the MPRDA. As a result, we have seen the building and refurbishment of, among others, community health care centers, schools, and roads. We have recently visited Mpumalanga, for instance, to officially open 2 state-of-art health care facilities in Middleburg and Catherine, which were built by mines and handed over to community. We expect all mining companies, including Sibanye-Stillwater, to follow suit. In this regard, we are in the process of fast-tracking the assessment and approval of social labor plans requested for Western Platinum and Eastern Platinum pellets. The department has made it its priority to ensure that South African mineral resources are increasingly beneficiated in our country. This will serve to increase the value of our export earnings and internalize job opportunities in the downstream of our mineral value chain. As government, we'll continue improving the regulatory environment of the mining and energy sectors to enable more vibrant and cost-effective sectors to doing business and attract investment. Among this has been the recent promulgation as law of the provision of embedded electricity generation from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatts. Allow me to reiterate that our people have high expectations from both government and established private sector, particularly mining. They have legitimate expectation to claim the mineral resources theirs, and the evidence of which must reflect in their improved living condition. Both the Freedom Charter and our Constitution amplify these high expectations as a legitimate and duly attainable. The MPRDA further lays the legal basis for their implementation. It is therefore incumbent upon both government and Sibanye-Stillwater to accelerate the realization of these social justice-oriented goals. I take this opportunity to express my profound gratitude at the efforts by other stakeholders such as 16/8 Memorial Trust for tirelessly working, inspired by no motive for gain, to help galvanize the legacy of Marikana tragic events into a program that inspires hope. Also not to be forgotten are the noble efforts of government in all the three spheres, traditional leaders and NGOs who continue to espouse the values of the kind of society that we must all strive for. As I conclude, it is my belief that though a painful past, tomorrow holds promise of a better life for all our people when we work together in the spirit of national reconciliation and nation building. I therefore invite all members of the Marikana community, as well as other communities around the country, to embrace the kind of national solidarity that must forge the nation we collectively aspire for. Let me thank you for this opportunity.
Siyabulela Kwati. Thank you very much, Minister Mantashe. It is important to note that we continue to learn through meaningful, intentional execution of relevant sector policies. And not just in a way to tick compliance boxes, but it is important that we continue to execute beyond compliance in a way that helps us learn how to create meaningful learning and feedback loops to policymakers and custodians alike. We welcome your office's invitation for us to not only engage beyond policy, but deliver as multiple stakeholders working together in order to improve the lives of people and the communities. And for our final closing contribution, I invite the technical team to cue Mr. Neil Froneman's address, the CEO of Sibanye-Stillwater.
Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Sibanye-Stillwater board, I'm in the privileged position of representing the leadership of our company at the Marikana Memorial Lecture. The Marikana Memorial Lecture was established firstly to honor those that lost their lives in the 2012 Marikana tragedy, secondly to engage in thought leadership, and thirdly to create a new horizon for all of us. Earlier this year, His Grace, the Anglican Archbishop of Cape Town, Bishop Thabo Makgoba, spoke of the challenges that South Africa faces as a people and as a country. He called on all role players to find common ground established on a mutual recognition of truth and justice to overcome our differences and to work with common purpose for a common good for all of us. He asked parties to reach across those chasms that separate us, to begin to build bridges and a South Africa for everyone. His voice showed great foresight. While he was speaking at the formal launch of the Marikana renewal process in 2020, of which he is the patron, his words have a broader affinity and meaning, given the experiences of the country as a consequence of COVID and the anarchy experienced in recent weeks. In this week, where we remember the events of 2012 and focus on renewal at Marikana, it is apt that we continue to heed his call on all stakeholders to work together to rebuild relationships and communities, not only at Marikana, but in the country as a whole. The Marikana Memorial Lecture was intended as a platform to hear wise voices and to engage in discussions on a broad range of social and economic issues. Professor Thuli Madonsela's lecture at the inaugural event in 2020 was profound in its admonishment to remember not to forget, but that in remembering what went wrong in the past, we confront and dismantle the past and build afresh, and hence the fundamentals of this memorial lecture, referenced in my introduction being honor, engage, and create. And it's within this context that we appreciate the words of our keynote speaker, Dr. Mampela Rampela, today. Dr. Rampela has a celebrated career as an activist, medical doctor, academic, businesswoman, and political thinker. We are indeed grateful for the insight that she has delivered, and of course, the related contributions by the other speakers, all of which we will incorporate into our thinking and strategy as we move forward. As has been clear from today's voices, the interdependence between business and stakeholders has never been more critical, nor has the need for collaboration. Strong businesses with an assured, sustainable future are at the heart of building better societies and vibrant economies. Since taking on the Marikana operations, whose very survival was under threat at a time when we acquired them, it was first necessary to restore operating effectiveness as the basis of sustainable operations. Based on the success achieved that created financial stability, I was pleased earlier this year to announce a 4 billion rand investment in extending the life by bringing Cave 4 shaft into production with the creation of 4,400 new jobs. This helps greatly in providing sustained local employment that goes some way to addressing the crisis of unemployment, especially amongst the youth, and also creates the potential to build local supply chains that will support entrepreneurial growth in the local communities. We have recently launched a program that will support 20 local entrepreneurs to build their businesses and participate in our supply chains. We received an immensely positive response with many credible applicants registering their interest, and we are currently working through the selection of these successful candidates. These are just some of the examples of how we are putting in place the business ethos expressed in our Ndoni tree, which you can see in the background behind me, with our ultimate aim being the creation of superior value for all our stakeholders. The canopy of the tree is where the fruits that meet the need of all stakeholders are situated. The quality and quantity of the harvest depends on a solid trunk that represents our people who deliver the safe operating results required to sustain solid cash flows. In turn, our values that guide all our decisions and actions, and very importantly, balance the interests of all stakeholders, provide the required stability to the tree, enabling it to bear its every load of fruit, and they located in the roots of the tree. This model of stakeholder capitalism provides an enduring basis for us to be an integral partner in shaping sustainable communities in the districts where we operate. I would also like to make reference to the way in which the South African mining industry has navigated its way through the COVID pandemic through powerful collaboration among stakeholders, not only in the way in which we've been able to respond physically by implementing comprehensive workplace measures to safeguard employees as far as possible, but also in the way in which we materially contributed to the well-being of our employees, their families, and communities that were affected by mining. There is also the industry's eagerness to support the national vaccine rollout program to employees, their families, and communities using its established healthcare capacity. It's just one example of the progress that can be made where there is common interest between business, government, and society at large. In this regard, I'm pleased to advise that we have vaccinated over 30,000 Sibanye-Stillwater employees through our own facilities. Our response has been purposeful, going well beyond the business of business. And that purpose has been met by great reciprocity. Mineral Resources and Energy Minister, Gwedi Mantashe, collaboratively with the industry since his appointment. And this has intensified in the past 2 years. The decisions based on mutual trust taken some 18 months ago to enable the mining industry to return to work have paid dividend to the national fiscus that are contributing to rebuilding the country and our economy weakened by COVID and devastated by the events of recent weeks. As a company, we have engaged fully in this anniversary week of the 2012 Marikana tragedy, acknowledging and honoring our past, but also looking forward to plan the future we wish to see for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. In moving forward, all parties, whether it's the company, the state, employees, or communities, need to bring their best selves to the party to contribute equally to a socio-economic compact that uplifts lives and unlocks possibilities. And to be clear, we as business are not the social partners in this equation. We are the economic partners, providing very substantial social support. We rely on other stakeholders to be the social partners, acknowledging their responsibility to creating an environment where business can prosper, creating employment, thereby reducing poverty and inequality. Through a socio-economic compact and a new way of thinking, we can change the trajectory of our country and company. The events in 2012 could have been avoided with true leadership from all stakeholders. It is this lack of leadership that Sibanye-Stillwater will not be part of, and we will take and have taken up our rightful place, ensuring that we make a difference in the national interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, for inviting leaders to take their rightful place in various sectors of society to make a difference in the community of Marikana and, again, for the national interest. We will now begin the much anticipated Q&A session, where we will be joined by the Director General of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, Advocate Thabo Mokoena, along with various leaders of Sibanye to field the questions that have been posted. And before I open with the first question, I would like to invite two participants who've raised their hands, Thokozane Makari and Lebo Sitole, to kindly send your questions in the Q&A box to allow our team to then field and essentially share with the appropriate leader to then respond. To kick off the question session, there's a question by Kagiso Mokoto from Cook Plant Gold Segment, and the comment goes as follows. Thanks for making an effort to ensure that this sad event of loss of lives in Marikana is never forgotten. what forms of intangible reparations are provided to the affected families other than the tangible material ones like houses? And I don't know if this can be shared with either Uputemba or Sister Tapsile or Neil for you to then field accordingly.
Yeah, thanks, Luvuyo. Let me kick it off, and then I'd ask both Temba and Tabasile to add on to what I say. I think, first of all, and you heard many of the speakers talk about sustainability, dignity, and inclusivity. These are the intangible or the contributions that are not, let's call it financial and material. And they're probably far more important than the material contributions of a house or financial assistance. These issues are really the issues that are going to create long-term sustainability. When we get the issue of inclusivity and dignity right, the rest will follow. And I think the memorial lecture and the initiatives that are outside of direct financial contributions are considered. These are absolutely key elements. Tabs and Temba, anything to add to that?
Thanks, Neil. So my contribution is that we've listened to all stakeholders ever since the Marikana commemoration has begun, and we've summed up the kind of quest to three things. One is justice to obviously the widows and their families. I think the second one was creating economic livelihoods. And the third one was socio-economic development in Marikana. And I think the Marikana Renewal invites all the stakeholders to actually get under the tent with all of us, because we're not holding the pen to writing a script about the new answers, but we are holding a conversation with everyone to say we all have a role to play. It's in the interest of every stakeholder to ensure that Marikana thrives, and we will do our part. And I think our part is what Neil has spoken to in terms of promising restitution to the family, creating functional traditional authorities in the form of Bapoba Mohale and the initiatives we are undertaking there, leveraging our land for impact in terms of Marikana. We've already donated 50 hectares of land towards special developments in Ganing to ensure that beyond our employees getting housing, the communities have got also integrated special development that they can participate. Our SLPs are another lever that we could pull to actually contribute to livelihoods and creating a modern society where we operate. So we cannot write the script alone. We rely on all stakeholders and the collective wisdom to actually change the narrative in Marikana. Thank you.
Sister Tapsile, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to just highlight the fact that we recognize that there was a need for further counseling, and we offered that to the families that are affected. In addition to us taking all the beneficiaries to school, we've got 10 that have graduated already, 141 that are at different schooling facilities in the country. We've also been working with them to just assist with financial literacy and programs to just make sure that at least as families, they are in a position to sustain their livelihoods. It's also important to highlight that the 44 families were offered employment, and we currently have widows or their family representatives currently employed in our company. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And for the second question, we have Robinson Ngola from Power FM, and it goes as follows. Yesterday, a number of organizations, including some of the relatives of the victims of the massacre, criticized you for failing to meet your commitments in terms of compensation and providing jobs, with AIDC going to the extent of describing the Marikana Renewal project that you launched as whitewash. What is your response to that?
again, let me kick that off. I think that's completely incorrect. And I would like Themba just to run through actually what was done last year. But before you do that, Themba, I think a number of speakers again alluded to, and Dr. Mampela specifically made the point that the Ubuntu value system, the Letsema circles of healing, and the co-creation process is a long journey. I think it's completely unreasonable for organizations to assume that in 1 year we are going to achieve the goals of renewal. This is a long process, and I certainly watch out on an annual basis for those flags where we can say we've actually made progress. And certainly we've made, I think, very good progress. The fact that we actually have involved government represented by initially our minister for the first time at an event like this. Thabo Mochena, the DG is here. That is significant progress in bringing together all the stakeholders. There is one important stakeholder still missing, but we can discuss that a bit later. But certainly, I think we've made very substantial progress. So, Themba, why don't you just outline for everybody what was delivered in this year?
Thanks, Neil. And I think I need to just do an undertone that says we are not doing this Marikana renewal to compete with any stakeholder. In fact, the contrary is true. We're doing this as a platform for all stakeholders to come into an independently facilitated conversation via Reimagine South Africa, so that all perspectives, those that are like-minded and those that are not like-minded, could be put onto the table and appropriate compromises reached for renewal that's going to create this future that we are seeking. We made a commitment last year to finish building the houses. That was an initiative that was started by the AMCU Trust. And to that extent, there were 16 houses that were outstanding. Owing to COVID disruptions, we could only finish 8 houses last year. We are busy now constructing the balance of the 8 houses, and of those 8 this year, we already have started construction for 5. We're hoping that by end of this year, those houses will be concluded. The second part of it that we had committed was to seek justice and restitution for the widows and the families. You'd recall that ever since the Marikana narrative started, we've always heard about 34 widows. We had said our position as Sibanye is to recognize the 44 widows, and we had discovered that the other 10 widows had never been included in any compensation discussions or arrangement with government. We had undertaken to provide a legal work stream, which I guess we'll ask Lerato to talk to in terms of seeking justice and restitution for the other 10 widows. We have also noted that there were other employees that were injured during the Marikana tragedy, and we've actually looked at those employees and those that could come back to work. We've arranged to ensure that they are reintegrated into the workspaces, and those that cannot come back to work, we are supporting their rehabilitation physically and emotionally to ensure that they are ready at the right point. We will switch on the appropriate processes to actually ensure then that they are appropriately integrated. We also had discovered that they were a kind of dependents or kids of school-going age that were placed in, I would say, for lack of a better word, non-functional education institutions. We've taken them, integrated them in modern learning, out to try and understand the kind of social problems that led to the dropout. We are trying to look at placing them in vocational educational institutions, so at least they've got skills that they can rely on for the future. We have seen the 1608 kind of education trust producing 10 graduates. Of those 10, last year we announced the placement of Mandla Yawa, who was finishing his PhD. I think the company sponsored him up until master's level. Is now employed by Sibanye. We are currently placing the other 10. We've created a skills program to integrate them into a working environment such that once they are inside the company, they can also then apply for appropriate placement in employment opportunities that will arise that fit their skills. So basically, that's basically where we are. What we did on the last part of it was we've looked at all the outstanding SLP programs that Lonmin had initiated. We've gone back, we've had functional community engagement forums. We've taken them on a drive of a look and see, identified the programs that were promised, those that were delivered, those that haven't been delivered again owing to COVID in 2020 are being fast-tracked this year to ensure that we deliver those such that when the new SLP is approved, we've got no backlogs in the SLP. And that's basically where we are at. On top of that, you've also spoken about the K4 investment, which we believe that is going to help create jobs, which are going to be new jobs, but also preserve some of the jobs that would have otherwise be lost in the other shafts that are slowing down. And that commitment remains and the projects are started. Thanks. Loreto?
Thank you, Themba, for that. And I'll be very brief. I'll speak to what we have done in pursuit of justice. We have formed an internal project team that looks at this issue. In this regard, we have used the Farlam findings as a basis and to try and engage the relevant state institutions that have been directed by that commission to take specific actions. We have been engaging with them, and we have reached a stage where we know that we cannot do it alone. We are seeking like-minded NGOs whom we will be collaborating to ensure that those Farlam findings are followed through. It's an ongoing process which we are driving. On the undertaking that we made to assist the BAPO recover some of the funds that were lost, we have advised the new Kosi as well as his traditional council to launch an internal forensic investigation, which will form the basis of the action to follow. In other words, to track where the funds went and who to recover those from, and also ensure that those who are in the wrong actually face the law. In this regard, on our advice, the Kosi and the Tribal Council had appointed a forensic investigator who had started the process. And unfortunately, because that administration is now being placed under administration, we have now started engaging the new administrator who has been appointed to look after the affairs of the BAPO. And we are seeking to drive that through again, ensure that, he ensures that the right kind of investigation is conducted so that those in the wrong can be brought to book. I'll pause there. Thank you, Themba.
Thank you very much for that. For all the participants, we do have a hard stop at 1:30 and a note that we are collating all your questions, and we will, as a mechanism, find a means of responding either directly or through the appropriate platform. So your questions that are coming in through the questions and comments box are being fielded and will be attended to accordingly. I'd like to bring a question, since we spoke a great deal about the process of healing and the importance of this work being done. And this comes from the attendees at the game farm, and it goes as follows. From the family representatives of the game farm, question from Moy Noi is, why does Sibanye-Stillwater not build a place where we can go and remember those that lost their lives? A place where their pictures can be displayed, and we can go to this place whenever we are having these commemorations. So I think we can touch on that question and then work our way back through some of the other technical questions.
Thanks, Luvuyo.
Thanks, Luvuyo.
Yes, go for it, Themba.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. So we've initiated a process, as the family members could recall, that last year we had built a wall of remembrance, which is at the entrance of our LPD offices. Now, the wall of remembrance is out of tradition in the company that each time we lose a colleague, we do that. But when we got into Lonmin, there was a process that was initiated by all stakeholders, including AMCU and the family members, of creating a memorial at the Kopi. And what we had discovered was the Kopi has got land claim contestations, and we are engaging as we speak with the respective landowners to ensure that we resolve that and do land swaps. So we have reviewed that was planned at the time, and we actually do remain committed to pursuing that and ensuring that we bring dignity to the Kopi area in terms of cordoning it off, putting appropriate lighting, fixing the road that goes to the Kopi, and ensuring that memorial stones are created for the respective lives that were lost. And this we will do working together with all the stakeholders, including the family members at the appropriate time. So that commitment remains, and I think it is a commitment that also we have actually gone to engage with AMCU on it, and we will keep that commitment. I think, Teps, you can talk to the committee that has been created from BAPO.
Thank you. So where we are in the process in terms of land management, BAPO have given us members who will join the committee that will be working on the Kopi project. We are hopeful that after engagements with AMCU, we would also have them send in their delegation, but we're also going to be working with the families, as well as the religious and the traditional leaders, as well as spiritual advisors, to just make sure that we've got an integrated cultural, spiritual, and process that can take into account all the needs by the various 44 families. Thank you.
Thank you for this. And the next question is directed more to Director General Advocate Mokoena and any of the Sibanye leadership that can field the question. And it goes as follows. When is Sibanye going to publish its housing and living conditions plan required under the 2019 standard on the Sibanye website, and regularly report about progress at Marikana? And the second part of the question is, when is the department going to start monitoring, implementing, and enforcing
that? Thank you very much, Mr. Matasa. I would like to convey my warm greetings to Dr. Mampila Rampila, and also to the CEO and all the colleagues that are in the call. We welcome the question. As you know that from our side, we develop law, and we expect mining companies to comply with the law that we have developed. And so I'm happy that the CEO has made a commitment here in terms of what they are intending to do, and also what they have already started doing. And as to the question, we would actually make sure that working together with the mine, those reports are made public. I think Neil, as the accounting officer, has made it very clear that the issue of leadership is very important. And so he will continue providing leadership, because this is part of leadership as well, to ensure that there is actually transparency in terms of what the company is doing. And so this information should be readily for public. And so I'm sure there is information that is already out there that the mining company, Sibanye-Stillwater, has already made available. And so I think that will be my response. And of course, from the side of the department or government, we need to monitor that indeed, in line with the law, that the companies are doing what they are required to do. I think I'll pause there. I'm sure Neil would want to add. Thank you very much.
Themba Tabasile, do you want to add?
Yeah, thank you, DG. So we have actually been publishing information on the back of our current SLP.
Yes, Neil, I think a point of emphasis.
Where we are finalizing our conversations with the DMRE on the 3rd generation SLP. As soon as we have that SLP finalized, we will be in the position to implement. But the rest of the information is available on our website. And if there's detailed information that is required, we can engage directly with the stakeholder. Thank you.
Themba, it sounded like you have something to add, or may I go on to the next question?
Well, I think to add is we are also working with various stakeholders such as human settlements and as actually the Department of kind of the Housing Development Agency to ensure that our integrated spatial developments take into account potential future developments, because those become critical in terms of planning housing for our employees, which will be integrated in that housing and norms and standards reports that we'll put together. Thanks.
Thank you for this. The next question is directed to Neil and essentially Sibanye in general. And the request is for, do you have any more detail on the vaccination program so far? When does the company expect to vaccinate all its employees, and how many of the community members does Sibanye expect to vaccinate, and what have been the challenges so far?
Yes, thank you, and a very good question. We are dependent on vaccinations being provided from the Department of Health. So the timelines related to completing the vaccination programs are based on the supply of vaccination. Certainly, if we were to receive a significant number of vaccinations, we have enough facilities in place to really complete vaccinating our workforce literally within a week, 10 days. Clearly, it's very dependent on the rate at which we receive vaccinations. Again, we would be very happy and willing to support using our facilities or provide support to our communities. We've indicated that to the National Department of Health, and certainly I think that will happen in the not too distant future. So it's all really dependent on the supply of vaccines to the company. There's very good cooperation, and I'm quietly confident that we will be very successful in that initiative. Thank you.
Neil, I think on the back of that, if I may have a follow-up question, in hindsight, do you think the decision to acquire Lonmin was a good one, especially now being confronted with challenges that won't go away?
Oh, absolutely. I think our chairman of the Social and Ethics Committee, Mr. Vilakazi, clearly outlined that this was a very well-considered decision, and we went in with our eyes wide open, and not wide open to the problem, but wide open to the opportunity of making a difference. Yes, this is a difficult situation, but I think you can see from the responses that you've had from my colleagues, we have made very significant progress, and I am also frustrated that we are not going faster, but I'm reminded all the time that if you want to go far, you got to go slowly. You got to walk together. So I would certainly not see Marikana, the acquisition of Lonmin, as a challenge. I think we saw it as an opportunity, and we're turning what most people would have not wanted to be involved in into something that is constructive, and we'll build on it. So would we do it again? Absolutely. I think I also want to put my comment of being an economic partner in context. Before you can really deliver on the initiatives that we are discussing, you have to have sustainability, and very quickly we've been able to turn the business of Lonmin into a sustainable enterprise which can create value now for all stakeholders, not just for shareholders. So we went into it with eyes wide open, but saw it as an opportunity, but recognized the challenge.
Thank you for that, Neil. We do have a question from the attendees in the Eastern Cape, which essentially says, what is the government's involvement in the renewal process?
Thank you very much, Program Director. I think I would actually keep on referring to what Neil, the CEO, highlighted when we started here, and also taking from what the Minister presented in his speech, that as government, we are committed in working together with the mining company in making sure that whatever that needs to be done is done, and government would also do its part. I think Temba, Mr. Nkosi has also indicated the other initiatives that the government is putting in place, working together with the mine. But you would also appreciate the fact that as for this session, the Minister has indicated that it is for the first time for the government to participate in this kind of an initiative where we are addressing as government. And so it is actually, a start of a good journey. And we appreciate the leadership that the Sibanye executive management under the leadership of Neil has been able to provide in also engaging all relevant stakeholders. But as government, we would make sure that we work together with the affected families, we work together with the mining company and all other relevant stakeholders so that we can be able to close this trust deficit that actually has been there for quite some time between us and the communities. Because I think it is something that we need to be very clear on, that as government we are committed. The Minister has made it very clear that we would continue in making sure that we also take an active role in doing our part as government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Advocate Mugona. Go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, I just want to say through you, DG, please thank the Minister for his contribution. And I think, if you want to come back to that question about what have we achieved and is this just whitewashing or using this as a PR exercise, I think, yeah, you've got very tangible evidence. We need to normalize the situation. It is completely improper to persecute our president over the Lonmin disaster. And I think we've got to normalize the environment, and it is really my wish that one day the president will address this gathering. And I think that will be another milestone in leveling this playing field and working together. So I just wanted to add that to what the DG said.
Thank you, Neil, for that contribution. And I think quite interesting that you were moved to share that we do invite the relevant structures in the presidency and the leader of our nation to participate in such engagements. And because it is several of the questions that have been in the Q&A box. So I think in addressing that, you've touched on that request. And in the interest, sadly, of time and us going 15 minutes over the program, I do encourage and thank again all the participants for, in fact, the audience members for participating today, our contributors for taking the time to heed the call, to raise your hands and get a sense of how to work together with the organization that is Sibanye and the key stakeholders that have participated today, both from a board level, the execution team, along with the various different stakeholders, key stakeholders like the DMRE, and of course, all the participants that continue to engage the Sibanye team, not only on this platform, but in other different formations to hold accountable to the very many pronouncements that we make when we gather on formats and forums of this nature. I would like, in closing, to invite any last comments that we may have, and then allow for the technical team to then flight the short video that was put together, that I repeat will be available on the Sibanye website at the appropriate link. So with that, and I would like to invite the guests and contributors to make their last parting comments in one sentence, please.
I'll start, Luvuyo, and I think my parting shot is that whilst we cannot change what happened in the past, we need to drive looking forward, acknowledging what has happened in the past, and ensure that we collaborate with all stakeholders for the broader good of society to make the lasting impact that will change and make the lives of our people better. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thabo, you go.
Thanks, Dave. No, thank you very much. We would like to confirm our commitment as government that we will be available at any given time to work together with the affected families, to work together with the mining companies, and also to reach out to all other relevant and affected or interested stakeholders that are seeking a closure to the Marikana incident. And so from our side, we really appreciate this platform that will continue to participate as the minister has declared, the commitment of government. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think remembering not to forget what happened, and then including the honor, the engage, and the create. And today, I think we must add the circles of healing into our vocabulary as well. Those are the things that I take forward from today.
Thank you, Neil. Bab Vilagazi.
Thank you, Program Director. I think I'm very encouraged by the progress that you have made. Definitely this year itself marks a milestone looking at the participants and the reports that you have received. In particular, I'm encouraged by government's participation, as well as I've seen on those that are participating today. We have the Minerals Council, Roger Baxter representing the industry. So this initiative is not only a Sibanye initiative, in my view. As we progress, the participation of the entire industry is going to be critical, and the Minerals Council is really an important partner in this initiative. Thank you, Chair.
Narato.
Thank you, Luvuyo. I think my key takeaway, especially from the Q&A, is that justice is quite key and is needed in restoring making sure that we achieve the right healing. We will not be resting on our laurels. It is an initiative that we take to heart. And to echo the words of those who have gone before me, it is not a Sibanye initiative. We will be collaborating with like-minded entities to ensure that we do that for the victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Lerato. Sister Psila.
Thank you. I think the takeaway is to say we don't have all the answers, and we are calling for all the voices, those that agree with us and those who also don't agree with us, to join us in a table through the Liziba process to make sure that the solutions that come out of Marikana are crafted by the people of Marikana, for Marikana, not by us sitting as on the sidelines, or rather bringing academic views. So please join us in this journey, and we look forward, as Neil said, it's a long journey. We are not going anywhere, and we hope that you will also stay with us for the long haul. Thank you.
Mine is simply to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to this successful moment of pausing. And thank you, Neil, for your courageous leadership. Leadership matters. I also would like to thank the people, particularly the widows and the children and the relatives and those who are affected, for their generosity to allow us to have this moment. To my fellow South Africans, wherever you are, we have a wonderful opportunity to work together to make this Marikana renewal work as a model for doing mining differently. We've got everything going for us. I urge us to work together, to heal, and to have this beautiful nation of ours emerge as a proud nation. I thank you.
Thank you very much for our guests and our audience members, and also then to invite the technical team to please fly to the video. Again, that will be available on the Sibanye-Stillwater website. Thank you very much for making the time. Siyabulela.
Lefu la ntate le tjhentjhitse bophelo ba ka ka hore ebe le la nketsa hore ke kgone ho ikemela kapa tjhe o ska focusa ka di past o focus ka di future. Memorial Trust e nthusitse ka hore ha bana ba kgona ho ya sekolong ya ba nna ntse ke pusha hore ke bona hore di lelapa le a hlaha ntse ke etsa tjhentjhisi ka hara lelapa a dintho tse re ne re so di fihlelle le ntate. Company ya Sibanye mama e re decidile hore fa matlo jwale nna ke decidile hore ntlo eo ba Lesotho ka lebaka la hore bana ba ka ba Lesotho gore ke family ya ka e Lesotho ha ke utlwa ho thwe ntate ha sa phele hore lefu la hae le ka tlisa ntho tse molemo ka hara lelapa e ne le siko ke ka hona ke utlwa monate ha ke bona hore sio ba hae bo tlisa phetoho ka hara lelapa le ha ho la ba bohloko e se ntho motho a ka e thabelang a re ke tjabutse hobane motho a ya ba se fela ene le siko ke le lengwana go one day ntate ka lo ka hanana le di-dream tsa gore a haele bana ba hae lelapa le letle gore go ntse tla tswela pele dream ene ha e sebetse ke ka gona ke thabile gobane ke a bona gore toro ya ntlo ha e hlaye ho nna e ntse hlaye ho mofu ka sebele.
My parents were never teachers. And I also never wanted to be a teacher, but because of the circumstances, I ended up opting for teaching, and I developed that love of teaching. And the Memorial Trust has assisted the school by building a school with 22 classes and a kitchen, and also now we have the sports facility. It also now supports our learners with buses, especially now those who stay in the area.
I'm the first person in my family to go to college.
Being able to go to university, it meant a lot to me and my family. Being the first to go to university and graduate.
The Memorial Trust supported me by paying school bills.
They paid my tuition fees, accommodation for the books, and the meal allowance as well.
Someone came from Sibanye and helped us with the gardening. I sell it, spinach, beetroot. I eat this fresh from my garden, and then I make a legacy for my children. The message of hope is, don't sleep, do gardening. Agriculture is the best. When you get every morning and go to your garden, there is the food and there is the money. We've got a better life now.
Molaetsa wa ka o kgothatsang batho go gore ge ikemele ha re le bomme ge focus ka dintho tse nang le bokamoso a sentse fitileng haholo ge rate dintho tse no ntse di rata ha e bona rata business e lo ka nna o focus ho yona e tletse bo tswela pele.
What I can say to young people out there is that it might not be easy studying. If you know what you want and you believe in yourself, then you can do it, especially if you have support.
Believe in yourself, work hard or study hard if you are still studying, just to get your dreams accomplished.
My hope and wish is that these kids must live a better life as they are living now, because they are living around the platinum belt. I just wish them to be the artisans, to be the geologists, to be the mine engineers. They must benefit from the minerals around here. To see them as well-equipped future leaders. I want to see them as better people, and also now see them helping the entire community, developing them, educating them, so that now in the coming 20 years, Marikana must be a better place than now.